Apoptosis and necrosis is one of the most repeated questions in pathology exam, but the problem is people try to memorize it. Today we are not actually going to memorize it, we are going to understand it so clearly that you will never forget it again. So let's start with cell death. So cell death, our body is made up of cells, we know that. Birth and death, plant. So cells also have a life cycle. Cell death can happen in major two ways. One is apoptosis and second is necrosis. So apoptosis, it is a planned death, and necrosis, it is an unplanned death. So this difference is everything that we need to understand. So let's start with apoptosis. Apoptosis arises from a Greek word which means falling off, and falling off comes from the leaves falling from a tree. So it means cells are dying in a controlled and a natural way. So let's talk about the energy requirement. So energy is very important in apoptosis as it is an energy dependent cell death, and cell is using energy to die. So it is a neat and organized kind of a death. Why apoptosis happen? It happens because of three main reasons. Let's study the three main reasons here. So the three main reasons are, first is physiological reason. Physiological reasons because removing extra cells during development is an example, like when a baby's fingers separate in womb, right? Then second is protective reason is that if a DNA is damaged, the cell destroys itself and this prevents cancer. And then we have immune functions to carry out. This is an main reason, I would say. So removes harmful or unnecessary cells. Mechanism is simple for apoptosis. It has basically two pathways. One is intrinsic and one is extrinsic, right? Intrinsic pathway, it is basically mitochondrial pathway, and if we talk about extrinsic pathway, it is death receptor pathway, right? So in intrinsic pathway, it is triggered from inside the cell, as it says, is triggered from inside the cell, right? And extrinsic, it is triggered from outside the cell. And extrinsic receives a signal from other cells, and whereas intrinsic pathways happen due to stress or damage, right? Both the pathways activate using a special enzymes called caspase, and morphological changes are also very important. So let's talk about them. These are exam goal. What happens to the cell is the question here. So here cells shrink and nucleus shows condensation, whereas cell membranes form beds and then fragmentation occurs, and finally apoptotic bodies are formed. These small fragments are then eaten by phagocytosis. Now, inflammation is very important point. There is no inflammation in apoptosis. You know that nothing's leak out, like nothing is leaking out, and so everything is clean, right? So we can understand apoptosis in one line as it is clean, controlled, energy based cell death. Now let's come on to the necrosis. Necrosis, it is completely opposite, first of all, and necrosis is an uncontrolled death due to injury. It is accidental cell death. Unlike apoptosis, necrosis is not ATP dependent. It is not ATP dependent. So no energy, no control, that means a total chaos happens. And the cause for necrosis is that it is due to severe damage. Due to severe damage, necrosis happens. Like we can say, for example, ischemia. it is lack of blood supply, then due to toxins, infections, and trauma. These all causes necrosis. For example, we can say heart attack, stroke, right? This is why it's caused. Then morphological changes also occur in necrosis. Here now we can see that these are completely opposite to apoptosis. Here we can see that cell actually swells and the membrane ruptures, like the cell burst out, organelles break out, and contents leak out. So it obviously causes inflammation. This is very big difference, and necrosis causes inflammation. So because the cell contents spill out and irritate surrounding tissue, inflammation happens. Now one line that we can remember to remember necrosis is, it is messy, uncontrolled, damaged based cell death, and it is not energy dependent, right? So this is the direct comparison. This is very very important to remember. We can summarize it like apoptosis, here the cell shrinks, necrosis, the cell swells. Apoptosis has no inflammation, whereas necrosis has inflammations. Apoptosis is controlled, necrosis is uncontrolled, and apoptosis is energy needed, and necrosis needs no energy, it is energy independent. And if you remember just this, you can solve most of the MCQs related to this. And we have a memory trick also. So the memory trick says that apoptosis, which has an A, it is for amazing and arranged. So it is a planned death, so it is not very chaotic. So it is awesome and arranged. And necrosis, it is nasty and noisy. It is unplanned death of cell, which is very messy, right? So this is basically clean versus messy kind of thing situation going on. So yeah, you don't need to mug up this. You can actually understand it, and trust me, this topic is asked again and again in MCQ, short notes, and even in viva. If you got this clear, you had already ahead. So yeah, I hope this helped you. Meet you in the next one. Till then, keep studying, guys. And for any doubts, comment down below, and what all kind of notes you want, comment down that as well. Meet you in the next one.